What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hawks Film Room podcast, hosted by yours truly, David Lee, aka D Lee 43. Tough loss for the Hawks last night. Lost by 5 points to the Chicago Bulls. Um, but if you're enjoying the show, and I think you will enjoy this episode, we've got a really special guest. Please make sure you subscribe, like, share the podcast anywhere you may see fit. I did recently start a Substack. Yesterday, I started a series where I'll do daily previews with using data, film. So on days the Hawks are playing, it'll be that particular Hawks matchup. On the day the Hawks aren't playing, it'll be any particular game from around the league. Today's game will be Charlotte. I'm forgetting who they play, but I'm really interested to take a deeper dive into Charlotte and Miami because both those teams were teams that especially Miami, I did really want to watch a lot of, but they're doing some interesting stuff that I'll highlight in that newsletter, which will be linked down below. But yeah, without further ado, I want to introduce today's guest, the one and only Steph, one of my favorite Twitter follows. He does awesome film breakdowns. He talks a lot about the Bulls, but he does great coverage across the NBA in general. Steph, thank you for coming on. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I got my D Lee for 3 / Quinn Snyder glasses on. Ready to do some high level analysis.
100%. Yeah, Quinn's glasses are like, it elevates his overall coaching acumen, I believe. But I mean, it was pretty much like what we would expect, I would imagine, from like a matchup between the Bulls and the Hawks. Super fast paced. Chicago was really killing the Hawks in transition, like they've been. The Hawks now have the worst transition defense in the league through 4 games, and some of that is the teams they played against. If you play against someone like OKC and Toronto, they're going to typically kill teams in transition. Chicago as well. But there's some things that the Hawks need to clean up defensively. In last night's game, Chicago added about 8 points per 100 possessions in transition. It's like the 87th percentile. They shot 90% in transition compared to Atlanta's 61%. And then after the half, Chicago beat the Hawks by 7 in the second chance column. And then per Brad Rowland in the second half, the Hawks allowed a 1.42 142 points per 100 offensive rating, and they rebounded just 50% of Chicago's missed field goal attempts. So you see the discrepancy in the 3-point attempts, you see the discrepancy on the glass, and the overall defensive incompetence, which was mainly in the transition. And that's kind of like the tail of the tape. Unfortunately, it's hard to win games when you get outshot from 3 and you can't really control the glass and end possessions. But out of those numbers that I feel like define the game, is there anything that jumps out to you, something that I may have missed?
No, I mean, I think you pretty much covered it. I think I didn't look super closely at the box score, but I mean, I felt like both teams got pretty good quality shots. I don't know what did the Hawks shoot in that game? I felt like they might have gotten like a little bit unlucky from 3.
Yeah, they shot 34% from 3,
Okay.
57 true shooting percentage overall.
Yeah, I know Trey was like pretty bad, like 1 of 10 or something. So I mean, this was a really close game. I think it could have gone either way with like a little bit different luck on either side. But yeah, defense optional in the second half, I'd say.
100%. It was bad. It was bad. The other thing so we'll start off with like the player highlights, and I think for me, what's as bad as Trey's shot from the 3-point line, I thought his offense came alive a little bit in the second half. We're still looking, especially in that, I think in the third quarter, he shot 5 or 6 from 2 in that second half. Like the 3-pointer hasn't come along, but his 2-point volume is going up. Another notable trend from his overall performance this season. I've always been of the opinion that I don't care much about the raw turnovers. I care about the influence on your team's overall turnovers. And so throughout his career, Trae Young has suppressed his team's turnovers, but that's usually come with 4 to 5 per game from him. He's averaging 2.3, and that's against, again, Toronto, Orlando, Chicago, which you guys don't really have a lot of defensive playmaking. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we
And
don't really know what a
OKC.
steal is.
Right. So I think that's a notable trend. It's a growth in his ability to pick his spots, to play off the ball, where he's not throwing the ball into these super high variance sort of passes. Now, there were still some last night that weren't great, but if he's gonna, you can't throw the ball away and also be inefficient from the 3-point line. So the fact that his 2-point scoring is trending up, the fact that he's suppressing his turnovers, I think is really, really impressive. And last night he had 21-17. The defense wasn't great. We'll talk a little bit about that, but 50% from 2. I think that's what we've been looking for with the added spacing. What can Trey get a little bit more effective inside the arc? And so that stood out to me. Do you have any thoughts about Trey? And then which Bull would you highlight?
Yeah, I think he had 17 assists. Is that right?
Yep, correct.
And I mean, these were not like cheapo assists. Like he was creating really high quality shots for all of his teammates. He had some pretty sick ones too. He had a nutmeg of Nikola Vucevic for a layup.
Yep.
He had a behind the back that was pretty sweet on a fast break for a dunk. So Yeah, super fun player still to watch. He had one that was like amazing, this wraparound pass. I have no idea how
The
he
dump
got
off.
this through. It was like through two defenders. That was also, I think, for Onyeka for a layup, right?
Yep. Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, he's creating a lot of value, even if he is not necessarily making a ton of outside shots. He had one floater in this game where he completely fooled. I think it was Jalen Johnson who like went up for a dunk, but it was
Yep.
actually a shot. And I think Jalen actually like touched the rim, but Trey missed the shot anyway. It probably would have been offensive goaltending if it went in.
Yeah. And then from your perspective, watching the Bulls, who stood out to you?
Who stood out to me? I mean, it was really a team effort. That's how they've been winning a lot of these games. Casey Johnson, legendary Bulls beat reporter, works for CHSN now. He's been pointing this out all year that they just get like 5 or 6 dudes every game in double figures.
Yep.
And Billy Donovan has been changing up who closes games. He's like very willing to just mix things up depending on who's playing well. So yeah, I think it's been just I already assumed we said last night like strength in numbers, like the Warriors old cliche from actually like it was mostly Steph Curry, but they said strength in numbers. So the Bulls are actually doing it when the Warriors just said they were doing it.
Mm. And yeah, to your point, 8 players in double figures last night. Billy Donovan went 10 deep. I think that's a trend that we'll be seeing around the league as teams are
For
picking up
sure.
pace. I mean, I think you highlighted it as well. Like not just teams like Portland. I know you pointed out that they're picking up earlier and further
Okay.
up the court, which necessitates playing more people because it's extremely taxing to play
Yep.
full court defense. But you're seeing teams dip a little bit deeper into their rotation. That's something that's vexed Hawks fans because they don't necessarily see the value in someone like Keaton Wallace playing, which I think that's the one player that the Hawks fans are right to gripe about being in the rotation. And there are certain plays that we'll highlight as well later on. But from my perspective, when I looked at this Bull roster, I think Io was huge. I thought Vucevic's passing was really, really impressive. Like there were a couple like very quick decisions he was making where he caught above the key and he found guys creeping along the baseline. A year ago, the Hawks defense on cuts was like legendarily bad. Like it was they're bleeding 15 to 16 points per game on the back line. And I think that they're having some issues communicating on that back line with the front court. They've only had 2 games with KP. They didn't play much in the preseason together. There a quote came out that KP and Muhammad Gay hadn't seen the floor at all during training camp. So we didn't even see those minutes overlap. We've only really seen Muhammad Gay play with Onyeka, but they're still trying to tease out like what the front court defensive, like the optimal way they should be playing defense with those guys on the floor. But I thought Vucevic did a good job of that. He was sitting in that pocket, getting to his hook shots, and I think that he's been, of course, when he had such a bad season shooting from three. Was that 2024 where it was like really really bad?
It was 2 years ago, and last year he
2
was
years
amazing.
ago. Yeah, and then like he bounces back last year, but generally speaking, I mean, he's still a big problem for a team like Atlanta because he controls the glass, making good decisions, and he had effectiveness. I thought against the Hawks in the paint, and that's what our big pressure point for them. They've really struggled to shut off the rim. I think we allowed like 74% at the rim again to Chicago, and 41% of their shots came at the rim as well. So it's rough. It's rough when you have to go up against something like that. Was there any Hawks besides Trey Young that stood out to you last night?
I mean, but not for good reasons. He's had a pretty rough start to the season, I would say.
Yeah.
Other Hawks, Kristaps Porzingis, he scored a ton of points. It's really interesting to me how much of the offense is running through him. We saw this
Hmm.
in preseason too, and if you just watch the games, like almost every game they open with a play for a KP post up. And traditionally, we've always thought of post ups as kind of antiquated plays, not very good plays. But for Porzingis in particular, I mean, last year I have the number right here. Let me find it. He was one of the best post up players in the league, like on the
Yep.
level of Nikola Jokic. 1.06 points per possession last year. To give you some context, like an average half court possession last season was 0.98 points per possession. So that's anytime he got a
Hmm.
post up, it's a really good opportunity. And the reason why that number was so high is because he was very selective with when he would post up. He's not posting up if Jokic is guarding him. He's
Yep.
only posting up if he's getting a switch and a mismatch. And the Hawks have been doing a ton of that throughout their offense, screening for him, getting him a mismatch, throwing it around the free throw line where he is
Hmm.
awesome at just shooting these like little fadeaway free throw jumpers or drawing fouls. That's something that he learned how to do in Washington, which really, really
Yep.
upped his efficiency because he was a terrible post up player
100%.
in Dallas. And that was the game changer for him. So that's what I've been noticing the most about watching the Hawks offense is just how they're so centered. And Quinn, he's listening probably to the analytics staff or something that's telling him like these are great shots. So on post ups of this year, he's averaging 1.14 points per possession. So that's even better than last year when he was like one of the best post players in the league. So I think that's smart, and yeah, they should just keep on going to that.
Yeah, I love when people come on this podcast and they echo the things I've been saying, because that's exactly how I feel about KP. It's the same numbers I've cited as well. I mean, he was top 3 last 3 years in points over expectation, which is just points added on post ups relative to volume and efficiency. And that should be the default option for the Hawks in late clock scenarios, in my opinion. Like, I don't necessarily want to see Trey try to ISO and get to a step back 3 if KP's on the floor. I think that you can get a better shot by entering to him at the free throw line or in the post.
Yeah.
But when
the important thing is to get the switch, though. I mean, that can be kind of tricky to do, but yeah, if they can get the switch for sure.
Yeah, anytime there's a switch, I think the ball needs to be entered to him. And I think that this is something that I think league-wide people will have to figure out. But like the sort of like the demarcation line between pace and like half court play, because last year Chicago and Atlanta were number 1 and number 2 in offensive possession length. They were both top 5 in offensive possession length after opponent mix, meaning they're playing at some of the fastest pace in the league. Last night, Atlanta played faster than Chicago, about 0.9 seconds faster. Atlanta's average offensive possession length after a defensive rebound was just 8 seconds. Like, that's super fast. Problem is, they only started their possession after a defensive rebound 28% of their overall possessions. And so they're either taking out the basket after Chicago made it because they couldn't get a stop, or they're not able to get the defensive rebound, and now it's a scramble scenario on a second chance opportunity. So we'll take a look at some of those clips, because that was tied for the second fewest last night in terms of possessions that came after defensive rebound. And Atlanta took care of the ball too. Like, they had to what I alluded to earlier. Like, they only turned the ball over on 6% of their possessions. That's elite. They had 32 assists last night and 6 turnovers. That's a 5.3 assist to turnover ratio. And even with that awesome discrepancy and the fact that Chicago turned the ball over 12 more times, because Chicago hit so many threes, they were plus 7 assist points. So I want to take a look at some of the I guess consequences is how I would say it, but the consequences of trying to play fast. And I don't mean it in terms of like we're turning the ball over, more so in like the deficiencies that come with sending guys out on the break, right? And this is something that I sent over to Steph before we started the show. But if you watch Zach Ariza on this possession, like, this is his natural instinct. This is what he's being instructed to do. When the shot goes up, he's running up the floor. And there are times when it works. Like for example, there's only one bull in the paint, so they can do it. And there's times on like this possession where he ends up getting an open dunk. But there's also times where if Vucevic was around the basket or Pat Williams was around the basket, like even here, I kind of want Zach to help on the rebound. But it's like the trade-off is, okay, then you get this leak out opportunity where it's an easy dunk. But I'm worried about this team's ability to control the glass because they're so focused on trying to get out in transition. But they're sending like their only if Dyson's on the ball and it's KP on the floor, then like Trey's the one that's supposed to clean up on the weak side as a rebounder. I just don't know if that's viable. I'm curious on if you felt like you saw that as well, where the Hawks were so focused on getting out in transition, they weren't able to finish possessions.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't watch back all the offensive rebounds that the Bulls got. I watched a couple of them where it was just like small stuff. I think we might go through one where they missed some box outs and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is interesting to me about the Hawks transition is they're really bad. You have this in your notes. I'm kind of stealing this from you, but they're really bad at finishing in transition.
Yeah.
And that's actually like pretty closely linked with their own crappy transition defense, because, the Bulls might not have turned it over a ton. They might not have gotten a ton of the Hawks didn't turn a lot. So the Bulls didn't get a ton of fast break opportunities off that. But what really triggers a lot of fast breaks in the NBA is wild shots, especially wild layups. And the Hawks have not been a good team at all at finishing at the rim. So when Dyson is airballing, floaters, when these guys are just like throwing it wildly off the backboard, that's a run out for the other team. And I think that's been like one of the primary issues for them.
Yeah. And to your point, they shot 47% on layups last night. So when you go 11 for 11 on dunks, then that restricted area field goal percentage is going to look passable. But especially when you don't have that offensive rebounding presence anymore on Clint Capella, like as frustrating as he was on offense, he cleaned up a lot of that. And the communication just isn't good enough in transition to like to make up for the fact that they're constantly having to scramble. So this was a rare turnover from this night, but this is the play that you sent to me as well. But after this turnover, you're going to see Trey just stops, and there's no resistance here immediately on the ball for Trey Jones. So Trey Jones can just push the ball up the floor with no consequences, no resistance. And it's not like Trey isn't in position to do anything about this either. Like he can ride his hip, he can step in front of him. There's you just can't do this, and then it ends up turning into, from a one-on-one scenario to a two-on-two with an open offensive rebound because no one else gets back, and then you see Trey sort of waltz back into the frame. And these are the possessions that I wonder, there I feel like I've seen Trey improve defensively. There was another clip that you sent or you posted last night where he was able to diagnose that first action, and then my response was, if basketball was a single action game where you could only ever run one action, Trey would be awesome on defense. But it's
For
the
sure.
it's the constant movement, it's the constant engagement, it's the passing off of assignments where he loses it, and this is a big example why. So to your point, like you can't be bad in transition offense and bad in transition defense because they're interlinked. And I think
Yeah.
this is a possession about like they just have to be more engaged, more communicative, because the half court defense isn't bad. They're ninth. They're ninth this season, and we'll take a look at someone the half court defense looks like. But it's strange too because I feel like these teams are so similar in some ways. But I think like even Trey Jones, and I didn't watch a ton of Bulls last year, so I kind of assumed like this pace was driven by Giddey. But even just having Trey Jones as another ball handler, I think is a big distinguishing factor between these two teams, because Trey's is constantly probing, and the Hawks don't necessarily have anything like that. But yeah, I think that's a really good point about the overall lack of transition effectiveness.
Yeah. If you go back to in that clip just to where Trey Jones recovers the ball. Yeah, for the audio people, you might not get this, but if you look right here, Trae Young is ahead of Trey Jones on the floor when he gets control of that ball. So there's no reason why Trae Young should be 40 feet behind the play. He 100%. Should be in front of the play, but Trey Jones just beats him down the floor, hustles, and then gets a rebound and uncontested layup. So, I mean, I don't want to pick on Trey's defense too much because obviously he has such a huge load on offense. But, I mean, you got to get better after that. I mean, it's that simple. Like, you made a mistake on offense. Don't hang your head. Just get back, especially when you know that your team has been struggling so badly, in these past couple games in transition defense.
Yeah. I think it's a great shot. And the thing is too, like, we'll look at some of like the rough options or the rough plays here in the half court, but like to what I mentioned, they're ninth in half court defense, and I wish I had like a look at like the league overall, but it feels like Chicago runs more like organized offense than most teams. And I think that's another reason why they've been effective without Kobe White. But like here you get a down screen for Modest, and then it's going to flow into a post up for Pat Williams. And now you're going to get a cross screen for Nikola Vucevic. And the reason why I feel like this points to the Hawks' inability to communicate and pass off assignments is like there's just no reason for Onyeka to not be like if you see a cross screen, especially like if Luke Kennard's going to be defending the screener, he has to be locked and trailing with Nikola Vucevic. He has to turn his back to the screen, or they have to like Luke has to jump out quicker. Like there's a lot of different things they could do here instead of just passively letting that happen. And I think there's some credit here to Kevin Huerter as well. Like this is a solid screen, and he kind of walks Onyeka back. I don't think I think it's great execution by Chicago as well. But like these are the types of plays you like attentive defenses don't let happen. Like like he's gonna top lock the screen. He's gonna like there's ways you can do to prevent something like this. And I thought this was one of many examples where they're not engaged enough defensively. And this was where Vucevic found a lot of his effectiveness, is forcing these mismatches deeper in the paint. And the Hawks just don't have the size outside of that original defender to keep up.
Yeah, it looks like Onyeka called for the switch as he saw the screen coming. So I don't know, maybe that was game plan or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, Vucevic has been pretty automatic from that range. So definitely you do not want a small on him there.
So like that's initial good defense from Luke to deny the passing lane, but I just don't. If this is a game plan, then maybe you might concede it once or twice, but you shouldn't allow it to happen throughout the rest of the game. And I feel like they did a better job scramming as the game went on, and I have some examples of that as well. Here it's a similar thing. Like they're calling a switch, and I like what they're trying to do here. They're trying to pre-switch this action, so they're saying, "Hey, Jalen, come off the corner. Dyson, you go to you go to the corner and pick up Modest. But the issue is, I think Dyson's a little bit too worried about Luke Kennard's ability to contain the ball, right? So he sticks here just a beat longer. Jalen's already calling for the switch. He said, "Hey, go get Modest here. I'll pick up here," and then Dyson needs to go here. But he sticks for just a beat too long, and then now it's an open three for Modest Buzelis, and he ends up missing it. But it's a breakdown because they're not communicating effectively.
Yeah, that's actually they use that scheme a lot to hide Trey. I don't know if I think Kennard might have been the guy that's supposed to switch over to the corner there. They do like a three-way switch, but I'm not sure. I mean, I'll have to watch more. But yeah, there was definitely a mix up there somewhere. So, this is like one of my other points about the Hawks is like I know people think that the sky is falling for the Hawks, and certainly has not been impressive. But if you look at the teams that have been kind of like bad early in the season, and you got to remember we're only like 4 games in here.
Exactly.
It's a lot of teams that do not have continuity. Like the Magic are kind of disappointing too. When you look at the teams who have done really well, it's been the teams that have continuity. And you totally expect that. The Thunder to be really good. I mean, the Nuggets have gotten some new guys, but they've been pretty good. The Warriors had their same core from last year. They've been pretty good. So yeah, these teams that they don't need to like learn how to play with each other. So
Yep.
I mean, I do think Hawks fans should be a little bit worried, but you do have to keep that in mind as well. That especially stuff like defensive switching, like communication on defense. Like you really need to learn your teammates' tendencies and get comfortable with talking and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot, and it's why like I've been kind of stressing that this isn't exactly panic mode just yet. This is again, I think you guys are just running great offense. Billy Donovan is an underrated coach, but this is zoom action off of was this a pin, sort of like a off ball screen, and that motion from, and this is the other thing I think like Hawks fans are frustrated with the
Luke's way behind the play here.
Yeah, he's way behind, and he can't keep up, and it's tough for the Hawks to try to navigate this because they're not like these. I think this triangle here, like these three, I think they're playing this well. I think Onyeka plays this well, but when it comes to passing off the assignments, to like this is what you're talking about with like the furthest player away is going to rotate this to this immediate pass. Like so, Dyson sniffs this out, he's going there immediately, and even though Jalen ends up stepping on Vooch's shoe here, which makes him lose his footing, he still was going to the. They were still sending two to the ball, and so like this is where it's like I've seen the Hawks X out before, and this is typically okay. The furthest defender will come here, then Jalen will come here, and then everyone rotates around, and you get back to your assignments. But
that's just bad communication. I mean, they didn't call the X out.
And some they don't call it out. And the Keel is trying to make it up. Dyson is trying to make up these gaps, but that's a 28-foot closeout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and also, I mean, they could have just swung for another pass too. Trey Jones was open in the corner there as well.
Yep.
So the Bulls had two opportunities, even on a good closeout. Yeah, they're getting an open corner three.
Yep. And then here, this is another instance of just like passing off assignments where it's not clean enough. And I think part of it is like they have to do it with Luke on the floor. This to the same extent they have to with Trey. And so you see this immediate, like you would say this is probably like feels like an overreaction from the Hawks defense. But the reason why they're collapsing so much is because it's Luke on the back line and he's just not going to provide enough resistance at the rim. I think if they wanted to do this a bit more cleaner, then you have Jalen slide over and then you have Dyson slide, like same thing where you exit out there, but they end up getting free in the paint and then no one resets their matchup. So if Luke was going to come over, then you cannot just stay here in the paint. And that's what ends up being, this is the clip that you highlighted me as a defensive rebounding, but the reason it's an issue on the defensive glass is because Onyeka is now the one who has to do a long closeout because Kennard isn't engaged on defense. And that leaves the defensive glass open.
Yeah, so the way a lot of teams, like for instance the Celtics last year, teams with continuity will defend that is they'll peel switch. So they'll bring the guy from the corner. The old rule is you never leave the corner shooter, right? You never leave strong side corner. But good defensive teams have really started changing that and peel switching. What that means is just like what you highlight. I don't know who that is in the corner. It's kind of small on my screen.
This is Kevin Huerter.
Jalen.
This is Jalen, yeah.
Yeah, it says Jalen would switch on the ball and whoever's trailing that play, I can't see who that is, would switch
Dyson.
Peel. So yeah, Dyson would peel switch onto the corner. But in order to do that, like I said, you need to really be on the same page because this is not stuff that you necessarily like plan out. This is like very reactive. This is you have to be perfect communicating because if two guys go to the same guy, then you're just totally screwed. So yeah,
Mhm.
like a little more advanced techniques like that. I think it's kind of rough for the Hawks to be able to do that this early in the season. Maybe that's the sort of wrinkle they can incorporate, with more time.
Yeah. And I think ideally the thing is that you could, or at least theoretically, you'd be able to play different types of defense, right? Like you have Mohamed Gay, you have Kristaps Porzingis, guys like that. Like you can switch up the way that you defend ball screens or actions, right? And so
Yeah,
when they had Mo Gay on the floor, you see a little bit more of that activity with those passing off those assignments a little bit more seamlessly. Now he has time playing with Onyeka Okongwu to that whole overall point about continuity, right?
yeah,
So initial drive, here comes Mo Gay on the help. Then you see Onyeka's going to basically bump down and cover up this dump off pass. So the ball gets forced out, gets to the corner. Jalen Smith is going to flow into a handoff. And then early help from Mohamed Gay. So he's going to come here and meet Jalen Smith before he gets below the free throw line. When he does that, now you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker splitting the difference between two. So he's playing these two gaps. You got Trey playing these two gaps. And because Mohamed Gay is so aggressive with his help, ball possession is dead, and then he recovers back out to Kevin Herter. So it's a lot
that's
more
great
seamless when,
defense.
right? It's amazing defense from a unit that's played together outside of Nikhil and Luke Kennard, but that was made possible by the two bigs' ability to trust one another. And this is the type of stuff that possibly they can get to your point, later on in the season. And then here it's like just doing things like scramming guys out of actions is something that they were able to do from time to time. Here it's going to be
Yeah, I
Jalen
remember this
scramming
play.
out Nikhil.
Yeah, that was a good scram.
Mhm. But then I don't know if Trey needs to be helping that deep. I'm not sure how you feel about that. I know that Trey Jones isn't the most high volume three-point shooter, the most respected, but it's this slight exchange here that causes a problem. And KP points this out to Trey as well. He tells him, "Hey, you've got an exchange coming," but Trey just gets a little bit too deep.
Yeah.
And then I think here's one more example of like a scram. So this was earlier in the possession. They had someone was trying to post up Trey. KP came over from the corner, and then he scrammed Trey over and then Trey ended up guarding Isaac Okoro in the corner. And then here, I think this is a better example of like sort of
Oh
those
man, that
kill
was a good
switches,
rotation.
right? And then they're able to secure
There
the
you go.
offensive
Good
basket.
trade, defensive play.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a couple like this. There's another one where he ran Isaac Okoro off the line with an aggressive closeout, but I think that there are some guys who feel like, oh, or there may be some schools of thought where it's like, oh, he's too small to make an impact, but just enough to force turn that initial advantage into a lower percentage advantage, which is going to be an open catch and shoot for Trey Jones. I think was a good example of how they can at least be competitive defensively if they pass off their assignments. But
Yeah,
for the most, like that's it was hard to find clips like that though. Um, I wanted to touch on as well what you said about like KP's ability to create for himself and how heavily he was featured in the offense, because it's here's early offense, for example. You just have a slip screen. If they put two to the ball, it's an immediate pass back to KP. That's going to be pretty much a good look for him anytime. And then in transition as well, this is what he did a lot in Eurobasket. I've seen him do it in Boston, like just sort of hunting these cross matches in transition and getting to a rip through and a foul against the free throw line. But what I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this, like especially because Chicago has not a similar archetype big, but a similar limitations. I'd say like Vucevic isn't the most fleet of foot, he isn't the most agile. How has the pace sort of been dictated with Vucevic on the floor versus off? Like I would assume there may be a little bit more activity when he's off the floor, but I'm not sure how viable it is for the Hawks to keep playing this super up tempo pace with KP on the floor.
I'm gonna have to pause for 1 second. My wife is yelling something at me.
Are you
Sorry.
good?
Yeah, Vooch might be the slowest guy in the league. There was one play in this game where they threw a hit ahead pass to him. He just like reached up and kind of like took one step and the ball flew like 5 feet above his head. So he definitely is not a guy that's going to be like filling the lanes or anything like that. Where he is very good is as a trailer. His
Mm,
above the break threes on these like trail threes, it's just been unreal how good he's gotten in the past year. Yes, dating back to last year. So he does help in that regard. Yeah, and the Bulls don't really have a ton of other high quality center options. Jalen Smith,
right.
he's like a better transition threat and he's like a talented offensive player, but makes a lot of mental mistakes, so he hasn't played a ton of minutes. The Bulls actually did something kind of cool. They went small this game and played
Oh
Patrick
yeah.
Williams at the five, while the Hawks went like super big. So it's kind of interesting, like giant lineup against tiny lineup. And I think, if I recall correctly, the Hawks won those minutes. Yeah, but obviously, like if they go super small, they're going to play a lot faster too.
Right. Yeah. So I think that it needs to be a little bit clearer, like how the offense shifts when guys are on the floor. Certain guys are on the floor. Like for example, when KP was on the floor without Trey or Jalen, it was very heavy KP ball, which I think is completely fine. I think it's a viable strategy, and they were able to generate good shots from it. Like even if it wasn't KP shooting it, here when he gets this mismatch, you see with the conjunction of that sort of relocation from Onyeka, it draws two players. But this is like my frustration and most Hawks fans' frustration with Keaton Wallace. He's pounding the rock and dribbles this advantage out.
Yeah, he
And
misses a lot of mismatches. He did that with
yeah.
Okongwu too. I don't know if you have the clip, but Okongwu had I think it was Isaac Okoro on a switch, just pinned under the basket. This was a set play too. So like Keaton knows that the first read is a play that actually like the Pacers run a ton last year on their run to the finals. But he knows the first read is throw it into the post when that switch happens, and he just like completely missed it.
Yeah, and this is a trend that he's had for a while in the Hawks uniform, and I think that he has a role on this team as someone who can come in and play gritty defense, and try to take care of the ball. But this is just like it's so against what Quinn wants from his players. I just don't understand how he continues to get minutes over someone like Vit Krejci. Like if this is Vit, this ball is swung immediately. As soon as he sees two go to the corner, Zach's gonna get an open three. And I think especially for someone who struggled offensively, having to wait that long for an open opportunity is probably what led to him missing that shot. And then now the Hawks have to try to recover back into transition defense. So I think that it's interesting.
I mean, that was like a decent look too, though. But he should have gone to Porzingis first on that mismatch because Porzingis is so good in those mismatches, like we said earlier.
And then here's an example where he walks down Isaac Okoro to the free throw line, and he's gonna turn, pump fake, and just create that space with that bump.
That's the shot, man. That's the shot he hits all the time. It doesn't even look like that kind of a shot, but he's just like automatic on that shot.
Yeah, it's automatic, and when teams have brought help, he's been able to find guys. I think that KP's presence in this lineup makes it viable offensively. I think the defense is another question. Like, is there enough mobility between him and Luke to really defend actions effectively? That's something we're gonna have to see against a bigger sample size. But generally, when I think about this half court offense, it's okay. You should have a healthy diet of why is the bar keep coming up? You should have a healthy diet of like Trey spread pick and roll, Jalen initiating pick and roll, Jalen catching in the short roll, KP mismatches, and then stampeding from the corners when you run that spread pick and roll. So here they were kind of setting up double drag, but instead of flowing into double drag, when Trey rejects the screen, they immediately space out. And so when Jalen catches it in the short roll, you got both corners filled, which keeps that help coming from the wing. And it's just an easy read for Jalen to get it to KP for an open three. And he can shoot over any sort of contest like that. So like I think the synergy is very clear between these three guys who are running their offense. And I think that the challenge isn't going to be the balance between those three guys. It's going to be empowering these guys on the corner, whether like Dyson and Zach, because like they've kind of been iced out. And I think that some of it is because these additions are better than them offensively. Like Luke, Nikhil, and KP are all more realized and more effective offensive players, but they've got to figure out a way to involve these guys a little bit more dynamically in the offense, I feel. Because there was a stretch here where the Hawks scored on like 4 consecutive possessions. So one of those three, the three I just showed was part of that possession, but it's it's their bread and butter. It's a reject screen from Trey. He's going to get downhill, and then you see the impact of the increased spacing. He doesn't have any help on that drive. Okay, here's the next possession, the one I just showed with the KP above the break 3. Then they're able to clean the glass here. Again, a big part of why their offense kind of struggled at points was that they weren't able to get these defensive rebounds. Trey gets it, pushes, KP gets out in transition, alley-oop. So there are these moments where the offense flows really effectively, but you'll notice that here and there more of a horns alignment. Jalen's he's gonna slip that screen, and then you get to a easy floater, and the offense is clicking, but you kind of see that it's a little bit static, or it's a little like it's not engaging everyone on the court. And I do wonder what's that balance, because this is what we talked about as well before the show. Like Dyson hasn't been very effective, and he's been pretty much detrimental offensively, to be honest. Here's an example where off this Jalen drive, he gets it to Dyson in the corner, but the pass is a little short. Josh Giddey already doesn't respect him as a shooter, so now he's driving even deeper into the defense off the catch, and he gets to this really awkward airball finger lay when there was really no need to even force the shot there. So I think
that's my shot. That's my signature shot, the finger roll airball.
And I think he's pressing. it might even be a better decision here to kick it out to Zach with how aggressive that dig was from Modest, but or even kick it back out to Onyeka. Like I don't think there's enough time for Modest to get back to Zach before this three. But what were your
Yeah,
thoughts on Dyson?
I mean, going back to that play, like Josh
Mhm.
Giddey, he's actually like an okay post defender, but his
Yep.
lateral foot speed is horrendous. There was a play in the first quarter where Trey got him on a switch, just backed him up, and then blew right past him, like 5 steps
Mhm.
past him and scored. So I think the idea when Dyson sees Giddy on him, and he did this a couple times, Dyson did this a couple times on that matchup, is to attack because he should theoretically be able to get by Giddy
Mhm.
and create an advantage and then, put him in the blender, pass it around the perimeter, whatever. And I think he did like kind of get past Giddy. It's just like that shot was the touch was just like not good at all.
Yeah.
But I think like last year, if he had that same situation, he would have finished that shot. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I think that yeah, he's just I think it's a mental thing, with Dyson. I think you like kind of touched on that. Um, yeah, because he's making the right decision. He's just not finishing these plays.
Yeah. There were a couple where I felt like his driving process wasn't great. So like
Like
here,
here, he has Giddy again, right? Is that Giddy or is
yeah,
that Gonzalez?
that's Gideon. Yeah.
Yeah, so he should attack Giddy. I mean, Giddy's not a good one-on-one defender, but he just can't.
Yeah.
He can't like get separation on that. I think like
Mhm.
posting up there was kind of a mistake.
Yeah. Posting up was definitely a mistake, and also the screen or where he's initiating the drive is already below the 3-point line, so he doesn't have much space to beat him off the
Yeah,
dribble. And so it you can't really attack the mobility when it's 10 feet of space. He ends up picking the dribble and he gets bailed out by KP here, who's able to take advantage of the mismatch. But that wasn't a good offensive possession. And he also just he's been doing this, and I don't understand it, but he's picking up his dribble too quickly. So this clip unfortunately cuts off like the NBA's clip uh, feature is terrible, but he picks his dribble up here on a 2-on-1, one step over half court, and this turns into a steal. Like, why would it not be a steal though? Like Trey Jones can easily
yeah,
pay this passing lane, and this is one transition possession, but his transition decision making has been bad throughout these 4 games. He's sort of second guessing himself. There's no reason why this doesn't turn into 2 points, and you have Jalen streaking as well. And he just doesn't. He hasn't been able to force the defense to commit, and I think it's to your point, maybe a mental thing where he's just not feeling confident enough to put the ball on the floor. But I think this possession in particular was bizarre to me. I couldn't believe it because I'm just like I don't understand how this turned into a turnover.
yeah. He's a good passer too. I mean, I don't want to be too
Yeah,
hard on Dyson, but I mean, it is what it is. Like he's not playing well right now. We know that
yeah,
he's capable of playing a lot better. I mean, he had some
yeah.
huge games this year, especially with Trey out. So I
He
mean,
did.
that is like I feel like with a lot of role players in the NBA, I mean, their role is so important to how well they play. If you just change like
Hmm.
one ingredient, it can make a massive difference for them. So last year was kind of like the perfect confluence of events. Dyson's not a great advantage generator, I would say,
Yeah.
but Trey is obviously like amazing at that. So he sets guys up for, you know, Dyson's little floater that somehow always goes in. And when he has a different role, I mean, this is like pretty obvious stuff and it's been talked about a lot, but I feel like that's just like affecting him a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's like a lot of Hawks fans remember his last couple games, which came with Jalen injured, and so that's when, and also of course there was no KP, there was no Zach, or sorry, no Nikhil. So it's like his numbers and his involvement in the offense changed pretty drastically. Like if you look at his last 30 games, like his offensive involvement percentage was at 31%. It was up 2% from the first 46 because I think Jalen missed the first 36 games. So we saw his on ball percentage go up 7% without Jalen. We saw his potential, like everything went up, his efficiency, his 2-point percentage, his free throw attempts, all these different things because he was more involved offensively. And I think that to your point, when the context of that changes so much, then you get a sort of hesitancy. And
Yeah,
this is the type of thing that I think like it parses out the more that he gets time with these guys. But um, I think that teams are also sort of understanding that Dyson loves the spin move. Like this is really good defense by Trey Jones, but this is also Dyson's go-to driving move. Like we saw Giddy get to it a couple times. I thought Giddy's spins were really crisp. Like I haven't really seen him be that.
that's
I
his
guess
only move.
determined.
He does it like 100 times a game and it always works
Yeah,
somehow.
it's always great, but it's not like teams are kind of sitting on this from Dyson. I don't think his is as it's not as tight. It like there's like if I wish I had it side by side. Like Giddy was
Yeah.
actually going somewhere with his spins. You know, like Dyson isn't really making up ground with these spins. So that's
It's
another
kind
thing
of
I feel
funny.
like is
Yeah, they went to NBA Academy together too in Australia. So I think I like actually asked them one time, like, why do Aussie guys like all have amazing floaters? And it's just like, I guess it's what they teach down there.
I'm so happy you asked that. Like I have had a not a vendetta, but more so like I'm just like very curious about why everyone who's from Australia loves the floater. So that makes sense to me.
And they
And
can't
then this
shoot.
this they no, they only work on floaters over there.
Yeah.
But then this is like
And
the last example I have.
okay.
Um, like I just Dyson is 6'8", and I don't think he's the most explosive guy, but I just don't think this can be a finger roll. I don't hate the decision to drive. To your point, he gets right past Giddy, but this you have to elevate a lot stronger here. He has to be two hands. If he goes up with two, he maybe gets fouled. I think he's capable of dunking this. I like the finger roll wasn't the best decision in my
Yeah,
opinion.
especially over Herder. I mean, Herder's not like a rim protector. You
Yeah,
can just power through it.
like there's no reason to do that. But that's my overall point, though. I don't think it's a flaw in terms of like the way he plays. I think he's second guessing himself. I think he already suffers a little bit from not having 3-point gravity. So if his drives aren't strong and determined, then he's going to run into rim protectors. So I think the definition of roles offensively needs to continue to be developed. Like, are they going to use Zach a little bit more as a movement shooter? Or are they going to give? Oh, I almost forgot the clip that you shared, but are they going to give Dyson more opportunities to sort of like attack an early offense? And that was one that you shared with me. But this one right here, where he's bringing the ball up after a defensive rebound, and they just sort of flow into some freelance offense here. It's a handoff, and then that slight brush screen gives Dyson the advantage he needs to stampede off the catch. And this is what they need to do for him to empower him offensively, because like the standstill creation isn't exactly there with the lack of 3-point gravity. So I thought that was a
Yeah.
great highlight for you.
Yeah, super, super simple action, but this is
Hmm.
becoming extremely popular. You'll see every single team running this, 20 times
Hmm.
per game, just a little blur screen ghosting out of it. And the idea there is, most teams want to switch that if there's contact. So it's very tricky when he just slips
Right.
out of it if you know if you're going to switch or not. That's exactly what happens with the Bulls here. They get
Hmm.
confused if they're switching or not to go to the ball. And that opens up a little window, like you said, the stampede off the catch. He just
Hmm.
goes right behind his defender, Monas Gonzalez, and gets to the rim. So that's like just doing simple things like that. Like I said, Dyson's not great at generating advantages, but if you can get him one already
Yep.
and he just works off that, like through something like this, then I think that's a great way to get him going.
100%. And I thought that was a great catch by you. I know that you said that you feel like Hawks fans should be a little bit concerned, but not in full panic mode after ingesting that full game from yesterday. Did you leave that game with more concerns, more questions about the Hawks, or do you like what was your grander
I
scheme
mean, they were
takeaway?
favored. They were supposed to win.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Like they always, every Bulls game, if you've seen one Bulls Hawks game, you've seen them all. Like they always just end up super
Yeah.
close for some weird reason. Like you said, they're very, very similar teams. And like I said in the beginning, this game really could have gone either way. I mean, you had a couple more threes for the Hawks and you win the game. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of these guys are not going to keep on. A lot of this stuff just comes down to shot making, as reductive as that is. And some of these guys are not going to keep on shooting as poorly as they have. I mean, we haven't talked at all about Okongwu either. I think his role is super interesting because I think he's actually been
Yeah.
like one of the best players on the team. And
He's
his
been
fit
great.
with Porzingis, I don't think it's been very good. Like to tell you the truth, like the
Mm.
spacing has just been kind of like screwed up, especially in the preseason. Like that last preseason game, they were terrible, and they played a lot together. So that's going to be interesting to see. Like, and Porzingis has been awesome too. I mean, their best two players might be like their centers. So
Mm.
how are they going to manage that? Okongwu, I mean, they're like so different too. Okongwu has been really, really good in these short roll situations, and he's been pretty solid. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like he's shooting three pretty well as well. Yeah, so definitely a guy that I want to see on the floor more. And Quinn's got a tough job. These pieces are not super intuitive to work together. He's a good coach; he'll figure it out, but it might take some time, some experimenting. And I know that's a boring answer. That's not the answer fans want to hear.
Yeah.
But championships are not won, in October, the end of October.
Yeah. And to your point, Onyeka is shooting 38% from three on about 3 attempts per game, averaging 16 and 8, 65% from two. And the Hawks' offensive or their rebounding in general has just fallen off a cliff when he's off the floor. So even in
Yeah.
last night's game, 75% defensive rebounding with him on the floor, 50% with him off. And I think part of that is like the physicality. So Hawks are a longer team. They're a taller team, but they're not exactly physical. They have a lot of finesse players. Dyson loves to finger roll. Jalen isn't. He's becoming more physical, but Onyeka's like the only guy who's going to box out. He's going to bang on the post. We know that's not KP's
They
strong
need to
suit
gang
either.
rebound. I mean, it's not on the big guys. I know like Porzingis isn't a
Yeah.
good rebounder, but when you're not a great like the Bulls have been a really good rebounding team. I mean, Vucevic is a good defensive rebounder, but their guards
Mhm.
gang rebound. You know, Josh Giddey's a great rebounder. Even like their small guys will go down there and like battle, box out, put a body on someone. So yeah, I think it's more on, Dyson and these other guys. Jalen Johnson's been pretty good, but yeah, the other guys in the rotation.
Yeah. So I think from me, like big picture wise, the issues for the Hawks are addressable. Like better transition defensive principles, better communication goes a long way.
Just making more
When I
shots as far as transition
Yeah,
goes too. I think that's huge.
yeah. The only guys who have been like Nikhil has actually been pretty good in transition. If he gets the ball with head of steam, he's impressed me with the way he can finish. He's like it's really just him and Jalen that have been effective. KP as well when he posts up early. But
Yeah.
when I look at the Chicago team, I mean, I'm interested. I'm upset that Sengue isn't playing, but I mean, outside of that, I think Blue Diamond's doing a great job. And that this style of up-tempo pace, I think that they were one of the earliest adopters. I think that maybe I'd say like, of course, in Indiana and OKC perfected it, but Chicago was doing this a little bit earlier than I'd see like those teams were even doing. And I'm curious, what do you think like that? What type of piece do you think this team needs to like? Because I feel like the defensive playmakers is the next level. Like if they can actually generate steals, then this up tempo pace is going to be even more effective. But what do you think is the missing piece or the missing like aspect of this offense? Because I feel like at this point they're actually pretty effective considering they're still not healthy and they also don't have a ton of top end talent.
I mean, the Bulls do not have good advantage generation. Like the way that they create offense for themselves is first of all just like running really fast, which is great.
Yeah, yeah,
But also just like setting a ton of screens, a lot of movement, and just like cycling through different actions. They don't run like a ton of set play. Like most NBA teams do not run a ton of set plays, but they just have triggers for different actions that they just are constantly cycling through. Which is okay, like that's good, but when you get to higher level basketball, you really need a guy that can just create advantages one on one, and the
yeah,
Bulls do not have that at all. I mean, Kobe White is their best player. He's missing. Like he can kind of break guys down a little bit, but even him, like he's not. I wouldn't put him in whatever like the top 20 initiators in the game. So yeah, I mean, like they're a good regular season team. I don't want to like whatever. I don't want to like downplay how well they've been playing, but it's just like
right.
to be like if you're asking how did they become a
Sure. Um, yeah, I just want to thank you again for coming on. You guys, please make sure his information is in the description. Steph No on Twitter, senior NBA writer for Sporting News. Is there anything else you'd like
Atlanta
to
local
add?
too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, that's
Lilburn's
awesome. You
finest.
know, maybe hopefully you can get out to a Bulls Hawks game and we can maybe do this in person. But again,
Yeah,
thank you so much for
I've
coming on.
okay, so, a little background, a little pulling back the curtain. I've seen you at Hawks games, and I always
Really?
try to yeah, this is the first time, David and I have talked to each other. I've tried to come up to you and, like, introduce myself because 'cause I'm a fan of your work, but you're always working. You're always recording something. You're always talking to someone. So, yeah, next time we are at the game together, I'll definitely try to say hi. But you are one of the hardest working people in the Hawks media industry. So, kudos to you on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You can always bother me. I mean, I may look busy, but I might just be typing notes or something. So you can always
Yeah,
bother me. Looking forward to meeting you in person. And again, thank you so much for coming on.
for sure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. Make sure you follow Steph. See you in the next one.